cool painting. You just Hi, I'm Chich Marin, and welcome to Chicanitas, small paintings from the Chicano experience. From a very early age, I started getting interested in art when I was like 10, 11. I grew up Catholic, so the Catholic Church had a lot of art. And I would study the paintings in the churches, and I started researching them to find out more and more about the art and the artists. And from the time I was 11 to 12, 13, I used to go to the library and check out all the art books and familiarize myself with all the artists. So I built my formal art education that way, autodidactically. Well, I've been collecting something all my life, whether it was baseball cards or marbles or matchbook covers or whatever, but I started to get into art at a very early age, and I only started collecting art when I had some money, so I had to get a job first. And from about the age of 24 or 5, I started collecting different kinds of art and antiquities, and then at about 1985, I discovered these Chicano artists. I mean, they were already there. It was like America; they were already there. I didn't discover. I've happened upon them, and I recognized right away that they were really great painters, because I knew what great painting was at that time, because I'd been in a lot of museums and seen a lot of paintings and a lot of painters. And so I started collecting their work, and one thing led to another, and then it became an obsession like all collectors have. Well, after we did the Chicano Visions tour, which lasted for 7 years across the U.S., I started, and that consisted of big paintings, 8 by 10, 12 by 8, 12 by 24. I started visiting galleries like the National Gallery in Washington. Every time I went there, they would have some little painting show, and I saw how the people were intrigued by them, because they were such wonderful little works of art, self-contained, and they drew you in. You became more intimate with these small paintings, and so I thought, it still feeds my obsessive collecting, still collecting paintings, and so I started focusing on small paintings, which every painter had. Whether they were on a tin or copper or canvas or wood or paper or whatever they were. It made them compress their ideas into a smaller format, and then you saw the whole story in a little painting. So I started collecting them, and I put together a bunch of them, and I thought, well, I think I can send these guys on tour. It's like Cirque du Soleil. This is the new Cirque du Soleil show, and it has its own idiosyncratic take on what Chicano painting is. Well, it's a compression and the conciseness of the idea that the painter has to work on in a small format that really intrigued me, because it's like if there's a musical analogy, it's like a single as opposed to an album. On a big painting, you can sprawl all over the place and work up many ideas and many techniques, but in a small painting, you have to get precisely what you want, and you have to execute it well. That's one great thing about these small paintings, is they're executed so finely. You can just spend a lot of time looking into the detail and being carried away by the image, and they express exactly what they want to express with brevity, and we all know brevity is the soul of wit. Why not? Why not Chicano art? They haven't gotten the attention that they deserve and the recognition. They're great painters. Why Chicano art? For me, basically, personally, is because I think they're the best artists out there. Pure and simple. I'm drawn to them because I recognize them right from the beginning as great painters, and I knew what great painting was because I'd seen a lot of it, and I thought, wow, these guys have never given up the brush. They didn't get sidetracked into isms and this intellectual construct. They were about handcrafted art, and I think the isms come and go, but painting kind of endures. All museums and all over the world have a collection of paintings, and mostly they have a collection of paintings, and so that's kind of the standard, and I wanted us to be put on the level stage so that we can be compared to anybody, and we can withstand the comparison very easily. You can't love or hate Chicano art unless you see it. So my goal was to let everybody see Chicano art. And what is Chicano art? Glad you asked. Chicano art is art made by Chicanos about the Chicano experience. And the Chicano experience comes in a lot of different forms, whether it's religious or spiritual or historical or sociological or humorous or abstract, all those things. And when you put them all together, you get this 360 that gives you the flavor of the Chicano experience, the sabor. It's like, what does chili taste like? Well, there's a lot of different kind of chilies. You got to taste them, and then you go, oh, chili, hot, spicy, enhances everything around it. All the foods, and that's kind of the Chicano painters. They're educated, very educated. They're exposed and influenced by world art and historical art, and also all their contemporaries, and they put that into a very special focus and perspective of what it's like to be Chicano in this country. And that is going to be the biggest experience, the most populous experience in the country going forward the next 20 years. Latinos are going to be the majority. There's just no getting around that. The numbers just dictate it. So this is by way of introduction of here's what are all the salient factors and all the good things that we can bring to the country and to each other. It's something that's very immediate and visceral when I choose artwork, and I have to stand in front of the painting and get an emotional reaction to it right away. Now, that emotional reaction can be flavored by a lot of intellectual interest, but a lot of factors go into it, but I have to look and stand in front of the painting and go, wow, that's cool. And it's a cool factor, but it's cool. It's comprised by a lot of knowledge behind it, and I just look for something distinctive, something well executed, well painted, and the ideas are thought out and they're executed well. They have to be executed well because the Chicanos are good painters. For the most part, they find me. I'm a known target, so they somehow get their art to me. But I travel the country extensively all the time, and I check in with different sections of the country and the people that I know that are in touch with new artists, and they funnel people to me. It's interesting in this show, Chicanitas, that a lot of new artists who have not gotten national or even local recognition because they're just starting their careers, but I've noticed in them something special, and that they kind of represent the new breed of Chicano painters that are coming up, more sophisticated, much more skilled technically, that you wouldn't believe would be possible for young artists, but they are. They're incredible, and so I started collecting their paintings, and a lot of them paint small. They're in the starving artist stage. Canvases are expensive. A piece of tin or a piece of copper is less expensive, but the ideas are as expressive as you get. So that's what I'm drawn to.
So, Cheech, do you have a favorite artist or art piece?
Favorite artist. Why, it's Eloy Torres. Oh, Eloy Torres is one of my favorite artists, and his artwork is some of the best in my collection. Isn't that right, Eloy?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, right. Actually, he has 3 new pieces in this show. The Rodarte brothers, who are in this band called Olin, and another kid that he did a workshop with. They're all beat together. You'll see them by Eloy Torres, but it's choosing your favorite painting is like choosing your favorite kid. It's the one's giving you the least amount of trouble. He never gives me trouble. So
last favorite, right?
exactly.
Probably.
I mean, why did you work in a smaller format for this one?
Well, the ones that you got, I was interested in painting on a metal format because I like the surface on that, and it's a completely different surface than working on canvas because the paint just rests on top really beautifully. And it creates an interesting surface.
Yeah,
I don't know if you noticed surfaces on that.
Yeah,
I'm sure you did. I'm sure you have an eye for.
Yeah, I had those 2 brothers
stuff
in my bedroom for a long time.
They know everything.
Yeah, they're the eyes.
the ever-lurking eye. Huh?
Yeah, those 2 paintings, those 3 paintings. Actually, I was drawn to them right away, and that's kind of the criterion I use for picking paintings. Like, it has to have an emotional reaction. You get it right away. Well, it comes from a long period of training and knowing what's good and what's not good, but when you see it, you know it. Well, I hope that people that come to see Chicanitas will come away with a joyful experience of seeing original art. And it's usually accompanied by something like, cool. And all you have to do is stand in front of a painting that really moves you and go, you don't know why it does, or maybe you do know why it does, and you have all these intellectual and emotional and or primitive feelings, and you stand in front of a cool painting and you just get it. And that's the whole process of art, the communication of art, the intent of the artist going across the airwaves and touching the viewer and saying, wow, that's cool. I like the way it's done. I would have never thought about that. It reminds me of something. It reminds me of nothing I've ever seen before. But that's the experience of art in order to encapsulate you in a moment that is the artistic conversation. I hope that you will have the effects of an artistic conversation when you come to see the show. Come to see it many times. The conversation gets better.
I'm sitting here all alone and feeling quite confused. She keeps telling me you're the one, you're such a lucky one. Hey, how can this be?